So our next step is to paint this white. And after that, we'll be able to, we have to let it dry, and then we can start figuring out what colors we're going to be using for it. I'll give a demonstration on that as well, in terms of kind of how to break the space up and everything. So before you paint it, remember the demo before here that you didn't see, because I didn't have it on there, was that I sanded this down. Because after you put that stuff on, it will be just a little bit bumpy. And you want to try to get it as smooth as you can to make your life after this a little bit easier. To go through and just sandpaper it down, trying to get any of the bumps off from the Sayu clay, just to make your job that's going to be coming up here a lot easier. So make sure that you do have it sanded down pretty good. So I'm going to do a time-lapse video of just painting this white, and then after that we will let it dry and talk about it later. That's good. Thanks. Okay, so I have this all painted. I'm gonna try to kind of leave it off to the side and let it dry. Now I did paint the whole thing. I got under everything. I did notice a few spots that are hard to get to that I didn't sand. I'll just have to kind of deal with that as it goes along with it. But it seems like it worked out pretty good. Just need to kind of clean up my mess and just wait for the next step. So we'll talk to you in a minute. Okay, so on our next part, we're gonna start designing what we're gonna do for coloring this. Remember, it does need to be painted in the traditional role of the Oaxacan culture. So this is how you need to paint it. If you get really confused or not sure exactly what that should look like, there are hundreds or thousands of examples online that you can look at to understand pattern, understand how to do it on yours. It's pretty recognizable. So typically you kind of divide up your project into like these areas of large color, and then you paint that, and then you go back in and you paint another shape on top of that, then a smaller shape on top of that. So that's how you kind of layer these colors. Now, just the way that the paints kind of work, they are student grade, so they're not like the highest quality by any means. So typically, if possible, you usually want to kind of start off with, like a darker color and then a lighter color on top of that. But you don't always have to do that. When you add white into a color, this white is a very thick kind of a paint, and so if you did black, and then you did like a light purple on top of it, you would still get a light purple. If you did black and then just used yellow, it wouldn't look very good. You'd have to really layer this to make it show without showing the black underneath there. But if I add white to the yellow, you should actually get a pretty good color on there. So as long as you don't mind tinting it, you don't have to go from like a dark to a light. From a light to a dark and have like yellow as your base and black on top, because that would really cover it well. But if you wanted to have a black base and then like a light blue, over top of that, as long as you're using the white, you should be fine with it. So there are ways around it, but a lot of times you'll have to add white on if you want to put a lighter color on top of something. So, looking at the owl, I got, a dinosaur. So I don't know if I could find I'm not sure if dinosaurs were part of their Oaxacan culture so much, so I might have to just kind of come up with something myself. But I'm going to just take the pencil and start deciding how I want to break this space up. And then I'm going to do that, do a time-lapse video on that, and come back and we'll talk about colors. Okay? Thanks. Okay, so I have two main shapes. I did some eyes on here. I'm going to have to kind of look that one up a little bit to figure out how to do this. But just for this demonstration, I'm only going to focus on just an area, because then you'll just repeat that same thing. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit closer on here. Sorry about that. So now you can see that this is my shape that I wanted to follow along on there. And then on the belly, I'm thinking about how natural, reptiles are, in the sense that they have, more of a yellow belly underneath there. So those are my two shapes. And then my horribly designed eyeballs. So I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do with that one yet. So this is what you do. You just come up with some main shapes, and you jump with it. If I look at this kit, I see this owl, that's here, sorry about that. I see that, the main dark blue, and then there's a yellow, and then the eyes and the feet, and that's it. Okay, so you're gonna do a very basic first level painting on this, and then you're gonna let that dry. And then you're gonna go in and put another layer of detail. So you're still gonna see that, but you're gonna see smaller shapes in that. Oops, sorry. You're gonna see smaller shapes inside of that, and then you're gonna take it down one more time and take a smaller shape inside of that. If you really if you really think about the area, if you look at those eyes on here, I think it takes it down to like a level 3 or level 4 kind of thing. You just keep adding those details. Okay. So you're gonna need, when you take this home with you, you're gonna decide on your main colors you want to use. And then you're gonna need some paintbrush. You're gonna need some small ones. Remember, you don't always have to paint with brushes. If you're going to do these like miniature dots, you can always use like a toothpick or something like that to get those kind of effects. So I'm going to switch it back over to a time-lapse and then just do this area, wait till it dries, and then we'll talk. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I got the first coat down. I brought you over here so you can kind of see a little bit better. If you notice, I do have a plate. It's just, any kind of a plate or a plastic lid would work for you to work with. I do have some water here. I didn't use it right now because the paint isn't too thick that I need to thin it out. But I have it there in case I need it. I do have a paper towel here. So if I end up switching colors, I always wash it and then dry it, and then I can kind of do this. The plate is to mix colors. So if I want to get a lighter purple, or if I want to get a lighter yellow, or something like that, you got that. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. It's a little streaky, and that's one of the things that I want you to really kind of focus in on, that you don't want that. You want it just a nice, really good graphic, solid color. Okay, so we're not looking for transitions, so if I go over in painting class a lot, this is much more about a graphic kind of thing. So I'm gonna let this sit and dry. I'm probably definitely gonna have to put another second coat on there just to because I want to make it look good. Have that kind of tail go over here. Now I'm not going to, for this video demonstration because I just don't have the time. I would be putting another color along here, and I'd have to think about it what I'd want to do. But you need to be able to go right up to that edge so you don't see any of the white of the paper or right of the project underneath. If you want to kind of get full points on the project and go for that A, or that B. So other than that, I'm going to just let this sit for a little while. If I was going to complete the project, I would do this one over here. I would try to start painting here. Be cautious not to hit that color. But spend probably a good hour or two just getting the first couple base colors down, because after that I think it'll go a lot quicker because this is kind of a little more of the meticulous part on there. So if you do want to use white, as a color, you can't just leave it. I do want you to go back in with the white again and really get that nice bright white that's on there. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the results so far. I'm excited to kind of finish that up, and I got to think about what kind of pattern I'd want to put. So there you go. I'll get back to you in a little bit. Thanks. Hello. So I am back at this again. I did put a second coat on there, and it does look a lot better, so it's not nearly as streaky. So definitely put a second coat on your colors to kind of even that out. So far I like this look. I'm still kind of considering how I'm going to break up these other shapes over here a bit more. I know I already have this part drawn here, but there's just too much space along here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do some arches to kind of connect them or something, but I definitely need to break that space up. So be very careful not to leave such big areas like I have right now. So I will be going through those and breaking them up at some point. So next that I want to do is, remember you kind of work on this in layers. So I have my first layer, which is a large shape, and then I'm going to do a second layer, and possibly a third layer, of medium shapes and small shapes. So again, you kind of look at this. You can kind of see the way that this is in terms of the owl, how that dark blue, and then they have a stripe of light blue along the wing there. And then inside that, they also have shapes that they were able to kind of get in. So that was like a 3-layer. And the main part of the bird, if you look at it, and a lot of it is just 2 layers, like a base and then one on top. The very tips of the wings are 3 layers. So I hope you understand what I mean by that in terms of large, medium, and small. I would say in some areas you should definitely have that. In other areas it's probably not that big a deal. Still debating a little bit if I'm going to go with red or if I'm going to go back to a white or if I'm going to go for a yellow on that. We'll see. Otherwise, I'm going to switch over to a time lapse and think about it, and we'll see which one I pick out, okay? Thanks. Okay, so I have this section here done. And I do like how I have it so far. It does look like with this light purple that I made up, of which I ended up doing because I thought about the red and the white and or the yellow, and it's like I didn't like nothing really stood out. And then I thought, well, why don't I just mix something? Because I kind of took the idea off of here that they made a light blue. Purple's really close to a blue as a color, so I thought it would look well, and I thought it did. So a couple tips with painting. What I'm going to be looking for like an A or a B project is that you have very clean lines where you got to make sure it doesn't look real choppy, but it has nice smooth lines between it. And ideally, the thickness, so if you're doing a stripe, there's the same thickness on top, in the middle, and the bottom as it is, on the whole thing. So that's just called craftsmanship. The way that you paint is that you need to load your brush. Okay, what that means is that you just make sure you have enough paint on your brush. So when I did these dots, which were super easy, I just made sure I had a lot of paint on the brush, not so much that it actually drips off, but I could just lightly, tap it, pull back on there. I let gravity do a little bit of the work so it didn't kind of go all over the place. That's why I wasn't going on the side, but I really made sure it was up and down. And it's just the importance of making sure you have enough paint on your brush is what it comes down to. With these student grade paints, they are a lot thinner than a thicker artist grade paint, which is nice in this case because you don't have to thin it out with paint so much. If you did have a thicker paint, that's when you really start using paint or water to thicken it out. But these should be fine. If you also noticed, I started thinking about how I'm going to deal with the rest of the body. So a lot of times you try to plan things out, but sometimes inspiration kind of hits. And as I was doing that red, it's like, well, we definitely need to have some red to help pull those dots out. So I went around and I did the underneath part, so it's kind of like he has a glove. So I'm going to keep him symmetrical. You remember symmetrical means the same on both sides. So I'm going to be doing that on this side. Still not sure about the head. He might have eyes and he might not have eyes. I'm not real sure yet. So we'll kind of see where that ends up landing. But I feel like you understand this well enough. You can get going on it. When you bring it back to school, we'll spray a polyurethane on there to make it all glossy again. Because if you don't want to, that's fine. But I like the glossy look. I feel like it brings your colors back out again. So other than that, make sure you always take care of your brushes. Clean them up when you're done. Know what kind of colors you want, so you can check them out from me. And good luck in the project. Thanks.